Still pretty frosty grass outside. My computer was in my backpack here close to my bed, but it's still feeling very cold, not good for my electronic equipment. That's why if I, let's say, go to work at the school there, I need to plug in my heater if I haven't found housing yet where my electronics or more sensitive equipment like my badminton racket could be kept closer to room temperature, because it's between -5 and -8 at night this week. So even inside here, if I put a water bottle against the wall inside, it would freeze. It wouldn't freeze if it's close to the heaters. This heater that I bought at Canadian Tire has been malfunctioning, and I'm approaching the 1-year warranty, but I'm nowhere near a Canadian Tire to be able to return it. And I'd have to dig up the receipt again, which I know I kept because, yeah, I would have written that down as a receipt to keep. So, anyways, this one is about, what happens to the human mind with beliefs in the supernatural, like religions, like God. It's I've had a lot of religious people eventually say when they don't know what else to say to the arguments that I present to them, and the arguments don't have to be metaphysical. They could just be about their own behaviors in relation to who they claim to be, and they don't know how to respond to their choices, believing they're good people, and then my presenting them different choices after they agree, with the same values, because we usually would have the same values, let's say, about wanting the right things for their kids, let's say, but when I make alternate suggestions of behaviors and I say, wouldn't a behavior be this with these values, eventually they'll give up they'll give up on actually assessing their own lives, right? Evaluating their own lives by saying, have you ever read the Bible? And I've never told this to anybody, but I could tell you that if I read the Bible, for me it would provide proof that there's no God, and I could explain it to them in a way that they just, at that point, if the conversation has already been to the point where they believe they can shut it down with less of a feeling of guilt for their own choices, let's say, for how their choices impact their children, by saying, have you ever read the Bible? Oh, okay. I could say, have you ever read these 100 books that I've read? But if I explain to them why the Bible would prove not just that their God doesn't exist to me if I read it, but it would also prove that it's harmful to the human brain, it would be that they'd have to kind of not walk away and listen to this argument. And the argument would be that, let's say, there's laws, let's say the 10 Commandments. Well, if you believe in a God, you have to believe that they're absolute. They don't need to be reevaluated, changed. They're all encompassing. They are so wise, that they're brilliant or whatever. And the thing is, I mean, if you had a Christian person pretend for one day not to be Christian and participate in a philosophical conversation where they would evaluate the 10 Commandments and see if it includes everything that happens in the real world, or if one could be made better, or you add some or deduct some or combine some of these, is even they, if they are enjoying a philosophical conversation with colleagues, would admit that there are ways to make them better. So in a way, that would prove how religion harms their brain, because they've never, let's say, surrounded by their peers, been able to participate in a philosophical conversation that can grow their ability to be wise. But also it would show that, these 10 Commandments limit growth, and also shows that there was a lack of growth, because already, even people that may or may not be religious, if you engage in a particular philosophical conversation with them, even kids in a Christian school, if you make it okay for them, and of course there'll be some where their parents will be talking to the principal the next day because it won't be okay with them, but the ones that will be okay with it to assess and evaluate and come up with something better in a project, which they would never do. And again, it proves that they, prohibit growth, self-actualization, personal development, education. It's not possible with indoctrination, like Christian schools. But if they did, it'd be pretty amazing what they'd come up with, and it would grow their mind. It would empower them. It would give them a sense of self-esteem and self-confidence and wisdom. But eventually, of course, it would also guide them away from the infantile, kind of immature attempts at, what a God has to offer us in the Bible, which for me proves that, if you don't adapt the Bible and evolve it, then it's religious people that choose this that are killing their own religion, which is fine because it is an evolutionary dead end. The earlier, the better. But can you imagine a nation that is, really religious, in the sense of, let's say, a Vatican City or Israel, and you combine that with, huge wealth, which is power, or weapons that they use, which is power, in the hands of people that refuse to evolve or mature or become truly adults or really question their own beliefs or behaviors, then again, it's proof that religion is extremely harmful. And it's one of the things, let's say I was doing a series of seminars on why we are now in the Anthropocene based on a variety of human domestication syndromes that has infected our minds and behaviors through memetics over time. Of course, religion would be a big part of that series and demonstrate cause and effect and how it has devolved us to the point that people are so confused now, they just want to supply weapons to devolve people and accelerate this devolution.